Gary Parrish, welcome back. CBS Sports, Eye on College Basketball podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, and leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do to the like button. Shouts to Brandon Davies. If you haven't yet subscribed to the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube channel, you should have already done that. Let's get into it. Before we get to the questions for this mailbag episode, it's a mailbag episode. Those are always fun. But before we get to the questions, Norlander has emails that he would like to read. I don't even read most of my emails privately, but right. Norlander likes to read his privately and then also read them publicly.
Well, a couple things. One, please send Gary Parrish all of your emails. A reminder, he loves reading them. He loves getting them. Please send them early and often. Two, these are our emails. They're not mine. They're our emails. And so we get a regular thrum of love letters and correspondence, if you will. So a reminder, top of the show call out here. If you want to email us at any point, for any reason, any comment or question, college basketball stuff is preferred, but we get non-college hoop stuff as well. That's fine too. You can contact the show by writing to shouts2cbs@gmail.com. That is the word to, T-O, not the number 2. Shouts2cbs@gmail.com. Before we get to the questions, just a few emails from listeners. We recently wrapped our 2025 summer shoot-around, but Sawyer from Sauk Prairie, Wisconsin sent in a reminder and a tally of how we did in 2024 with our regular season win predictions. So let's take a listen. Let's take a look and hold ourselves accountable. Now, you have that up. So look at this. Now, if you're watching, it's helpful. If you're listening, I'm obviously going to describe this for you. What I don't think I did in 2025 is I don't think I specifically on most of the episodes, I don't think I gave a specific over-under number. So for anyone, and we got a few of these emails that kind of fact-checked us. A listener named Monica has another email with some of our predictions from last season. We're going to save that one, Monica, for when we do our annual predictions on the eve of the season, but we appreciate you sending that in. So in absence of me doing an over-under specific number for the 2025 summer shoot-arounds, we might just have to have our listeners hold us accountable and go back and check and see who was actually closer. But a year ago, when Parrish accused me of being a hater with all these programs, well, I was actually trying to deal in realism. I wound up going 10-5. Parrish sucking up to all these coaches. 5-10, buddy. 5-10 on the over-under hits. How are we feeling about
it? I feel nothing.
Okay.
I couldn't care less. But continue reading your emails to brag about some shit from a year ago, I guess.
There was by the way, on this detail one, it says unfriendly wager over-under loser gets slap boxed on UConn. I don't remember agreeing to a slap box match. I technically won. I'm not going to follow through on that. I think I might have proposed the slap box. And if I have to be on the wrong end of it, I pay my debts. All right. So if you owe me a slap, there's no chance I'm slapping you.
I will see you at Big 12 Media Day. And if you want to slap me there, you can slap me there.
I'm not slapping you there. I'm not. But we appreciate that. I love when our listeners follow up on stuff that we completely forget about on the show. I appreciate that plenty. We had listeners write in asking happy birthdays for themselves or their wives. Unfortunately, when you write this stuff in, we might not read it for 2, 3, 4 weeks after, but I'll give one shout out. Tessa, happy birthday. Apparently a massive listener to the program. But the birthday was in July. So happy belated happy birthday. It's just, we're not going to try and dissuade any listener from writing any email at any time. But if you're asking for a specific happy birthday shout out, you literally might want to plan ahead and get it like 3 months in advance. So if you want it within real time, we can get to you there. Big Ten fans on the title drought. This actually prompted a lot of response, GP. We recently talked on the show about, if you hadn't heard, the Big Ten hasn't won a national title since 2000.
What?
And then I wondered aloud whether Big Ten fans even care. We got a variety of responses on that. So yes, well, a lot of them don't care, but they wanted to write in and tell us that they don't care, or they're not rooting for the Big Ten. But a few did actually say, it actually does mean it's real to me, damn it. And it does mean something. And I do root for other Big Ten programs to win. I just thought it notable because we brought it up on the show. And a lot of people felt prompted to say, like, actually, here's why I'm a Purdue fan. And even if Indiana went and, was in the championship game, like, I would root for them. And then an Indiana fan wrote in to say, hell no, I would not root for Purdue to win the national championship just to end the Big Ten drought. So I found that to be intriguing. You might enjoy this one. If you'd like to know what I'd say 20% of our inbox looks like it's emails with this kind of vibe. So Jim from Colorado, he wrote this a few months back. Okay. He goes, my son and I are at Ball Arena watching BYU, and he is commenting on fans of BYU, and he was surprised about the BYU group in front of us drinking beers, and I was surprised he was upset about it. My comment was, you don't have to be a Mormon to be a fan of the school. Next, his girlfriend comments on the BYU Cougar being a stud mascot, and I reply, yeah, I'm thinking he's having a lot of sex.
Yeah.
Guys, I just listened to the Mailbag episode, and I'm laughing my ass off. And Norlander, congrats on your anniversary. That's the email. Just unprompted, stream of consciousness. I knew you'd appreciate that one. I just love the visual of that, just sitting in the arena. And some dad familiar with the show being like, you don't know how much sex that mascot has. Man.
That BYU Cougar, like, I'd bet my life on it, has done it a lot. I'd bet my life on that. I can tell. I pick up on these things, and I can tell. If they ever investigate that Cougar, it's going the way of Brandon Davies. There's no getting around it.
There's no doubt about that. We did a dribble handoff like 3 weeks ago on just, I don't know, the dregs of the slow off season, who our favorite mascot was in college basketball. And I think I was the last one to put in an answer. And I was like, no one's picked the BYU mascot. This thing is jumping out of planes, doing stunts through rings of fire, trampolining dunks from beyond the 3-point line. Like, it's not arguable. Cosmo, the BYU mascot, is the best one. But as I was doing it, I was looking up a few different things I could like embed in the story just to show you. And yeah, I there was a video or two of this BYU mascot like dancing at halftime on the football field, and I'm like, it's got the moves, man.
It's got the moves.
And
it knows what it's doing.
In the words of Gary Parrish, I think this is an exact quote. You can't tell me that mascot's never had sex. So
it feels like it sounds like something I would have said. And it's definitely something I believe.
It's an early Thursday morning, by the way. Parents, if you're listening with kids, this should mostly be a clean show, but yeah, you just beware. We got a few emails about the biggest.
If the worst thing your kids hear today about what's going on in the world is that the BYU mascot might be having sex, congratulations. Congratulations.
Correct. Got a few emails, more than a few, about our top 25 stories of the past 25 years. Tim and Mass wrote in a couple times. Big listener to the show. We appreciate you, Tim. He said, I love the top 25 stories series. The UNC academic fraud thing is so striking now compared to what it was, and especially with NIL and revenue sharing. Does the concept of a student athlete even exist anymore? And then he said, the JJ Redick, Adam Morrison stuff, maybe go back to YouTube and watch the Gus Johnson call of that Sweet 16 game against UCLA. Thanks for that. I really enjoyed the series. I'll confess I sometimes don't listen to the draft previews, so this was a great way to stay engaged with your show in the summer. Note from me, yeah, I wanted to do it not just to take a long stroll down memory lane, but I wanted to give listeners an off-season series to keep the pod fresh in the midst of the summer. We had a couple of suggestions on things that could have made the list. Andrew, an admittedly biased Kansas fan, said Kansas winning 14 straight Big 12 regular season titles from 2005 to 2018 should have made the list. It broke the record for most consecutive conference championships by a power conference team beating UCLA back in the day. During the stretch, the Big 12 was home to Kevin Durant, Beasley, Blake Griffin, PJ Tucker, Marcus Smart, Buddy Hield, LaMarcus Aldridge, Cade Cunningham, George Niang, AC Law the fourth, Chris Middleton, Damari Carroll, Marcus Denman, Kim English. I don't know how Kim English is squeaking there, but regardless, Kansas beat them all. He's right. There was also some pitches, GP, for that 08 Final Four, and I don't know if we ever talked about this on the show, but I did consider that the first time there were all 4 1 seeds, and it wasn't just that. It was, remember Roy coaching against Kansas, Roy wearing remember he had the black sweater with the Kansas sticker on, which was like, that was like nascent social media stuff, but it was like it was the kind of thing that got talked about on big shows and PTI and all that stuff. You had Hansborough there, UCLA's team, back-to-back Final Fours, the Memphis team. So a few people actually mentioned the 08 Final Four stuff. So I know we're a little bit removed from that series, but we got a lot of response for it. So I wanted to at least acknowledge the people that
that's all reasonable. Everything you just said. I think Mike DeCourcy, our buddy at Sporting News, had some suggestions, and the one that stood out where I was like, was the implementation of the one and done rule. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's obviously a big deal. That gave us Kevin Durant.
Unquestionably, no doubt about it. I don't know if I mentioned this on the pod or not. I debated putting it in, and primarily the only reason I didn't, it was a college basketball story. It was instituted by the NBA, but it probably should have been on the list. Just about ready for the questions. I do want to at least acknowledge, like, a lot of people will send in long emails. We just can't read them on the pod. They're way too long, but we appreciate the thoughts. A couple of our questions were actually long emails that I really, really shortened down there. We still, by the way, speaking of long emails, we still have people sending in earnest long emails that are meant to go to our colleagues at Fantasy Baseball Today. I don't know if there's any stopping this, but Parrish, it's like, I don't think we've had one in the past month, but like April, May, June, like consistently asking for fantasy baseball advice. So
I mean, well, then let's. I would take Cal Raleigh. He's breaking records set by Mickey Mantle. He's breaking records set by King Griffey Jr. If you could get Cal Raleigh, big dumper, on your fantasy team as the regular season comes to a conclusion and the playoffs get started, that would make some sense to me. I would try to add big dumper.
I'd go Ohtani if you want my input. I'd look to pick him up. Seems like a solid player, and then a good second, third round stroke. P. Crow Armstrong. Shouts to the Cubbies. They're doing pretty well for themselves this year. You might want to check in on PCA there. So that's our fantasy baseball corner minute. Last thing, on a previous mailbag episode, we had someone ask what the funniest episode was. I don't know what that is, but we've gotten this question a few times in the past year. I know the hardest I've ever laughed on the show was when we were talking about one of Hoops Weiss's tweets about Baylor. I know that for sure. I was in tears and couldn't talk for 3 minutes. That's like 5, 6, 7 years old at this point. But Kristen from Vermont emailed, no question, I listen to the Dodo Bird episode at least once a year. I've been listening to you guys since early 2020, and to me, that is the absolute apex of your show. P.S. More of us. I will say, Parrish, like most of the ones that are probably pre-2015 are lost to the ether. But there were some ridiculous moments pre-2015. And when I say ridiculous, Parrish probably needs to be thankful that those episodes can't be found anymore. They were fun, but
my buddy Chris Vernon and I talk about this sometimes. Like in our early radio days, there were bits that we did together that like could not be done to, like, not even close. Like we just could not do, like we would be like, you just couldn't. And so, yes, I'm appreciative that some of that stuff is difficult to find.
Parrish says, Nada says in our private chat, he says, you losing your wallet in New Jersey might be the funniest episode. That was a very good one. I want to say that was COVID times.
I had to go to New Jersey to retrieve my wallet one time, like on a random Monday night.
Yep.
And I lost my passport in a cannabis cookie maker. Got it back to me. Remember that one?
It's actually astounding that these things weren't gone together forever. If you're watching on YouTube or listening, I do want to shout out a listener, David Glidden. In 2023, he wrote a blog post on the origin stories tied to Parrish's intro on the podcast. So if you're listening or after the show, go read and check that out if you're curious about camel fighting, dodo birds, leaky black. He did a whole thing on that with links to those shows. The dodo birds episode specifically, if you do want to go back and listen to how that came to be, January 8th, 2021. We probably get asked once a month from listeners in the inbox, what's this from? Or why do you guys say this? Or when was the first trivia time, etc. That's a good thing because it means new people are finding the show and they want to know, and that's awesome. We're appreciative of it. And so, I wanted to at least acknowledge those listeners. That being said, let's dive into the questions, GP. You're first up.
First one comes from Mitch. He's in Minneapolis, and he wants an updated list. He says his question is inspired by my comment regarding Hubert Davis, sort of the point I made once upon a time about North Carolina as people discuss the future of that program. Is like, do you have, I think the way I put it, do you have one of the best coaches in the country running your program? You have one of the best programs. You should have one of the best coaches. And so the way Mitch phrased it was, do you have a future Hall of Famer on your sideline? He added, a few years ago, you rated the chances of current active coaches making the Hall of Fame. Can you update that list? Especially curious with Matt Painter adding multiple Big Ten titles, 2 National Player of the Years, and a Final Four run. So I just sort of broke it down this way. You tell me if you object to any of this.
Okay.
These are definites. Definite future Naismith Memorial Hall of Famers.
Inarguable. I could also make the case that should be the line for a Hall of Famer is when you say it, it's yes, no brainer. Anything else that's short of it, you're not in. That's a separate topic altogether. Give me your names.
Here's what I mean. I mean, they could retire today. This afternoon, we do an emergency podcast, and someday they would still be in the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame.
Okay.
Scott Drew.
Yes.
Dan Hurley,
Yes.
Mark Few,
Yes, but it gets close.
Kelvin Sampson.
I don't think that's definite yet. I think
It should be.
Yeah, I don't think he's there. I think he is the line. But yeah.
Bruce Pearl.
No, I think it's a toss up.
You look at what he did.
I know. I still think it's a toss up.
Okay, fine. I would call those 5 men definites right now, but I understand your perspective.
Yep.
Kind of up. I could see it going any way. I could see it. I'm not sure of it though. How you feel about Rick Barnes?
Toss up. I have two. So here's what I have. We keep going with your list. I have active with the title, not yet in the Hall. Hurley, yes, he's getting there. Scott Drew, yes, he's getting there. Todd Golden, he's too young. All others that are active are in the Hall already that have a national title. Self Patino is Ocal. Then I've got active coaches with the Final Four. To me, you need to make a Final Four to get to the Hall with rare exception. You got to get to at least one Final Four. So there are 5 group names in that group. You mentioned 4 of them. Few and Sampson. I have them as yes, they're going to make it, by the way. My 2 toss-ups are Rick Barnes and Bruce Pearl. Barnes getting a second Final Four would get him a lot closer. Bruce Pearl, another Final Four would be undoubt about it. Bruce Pearl might get it. I just don't like it. I don't know if it's 100% with Bruce Pearl. That's all.
How do you feel about this one? And this is, I think, a stretch, but I could argue it. I think unlikely, but I could argue it. How do you feel about Randy Bennett?
Not there. I have him among the most accomplished coaches without a Final Four. I've got a long list. I'll save that for the end of this conversation, but I would put other coaches ahead of him.
That's fine. It's just I would at least take a look at that.
There's one other coach you haven't named yet that I think is pacing to be a Hall of Famer for sure.
I mean, I've got another category of on the way. Like these guys are on the way to the Hall of Fame.
Let's hear it, because the way I did it is they're pacing to be one, maybe, but another pacing to be one, but not there yet. And another Final Four would put it up for debate.
I think Matt Painter, obviously.
I think he's the other one. So I think he is going to get there. I think because he's going to either be the all-time wins leader in the Big Ten after Izzo retires, or at worst he'll be number 2 to Izzo. He's made a Final Four. The other thing that's going to help with Matt Painter, I'm not saying this should be the thing but it does matter. Matt Painter has been involved in a variety of committees throughout the NCAA and through basketball, has connections with USA Basketball for 15, 20 years at this point. He's among the most well-liked people in all of basketball, not college basketball, all of basketball. His win percentage is outrageous. I think he's now made a Final Four. I think Matt Painter coaching another 5 years will only increase his overall win total, his win percentage. I think he's headed there. If he retired today, would he get in? That's a different question. He's not going to retire today. He's not going to retire next year. He's not going to retire the year after that. He's going to get there. Yeah,
I agree. I don't know that if he retired today, he'd be in, but he's not retiring today, and he's going to do enough stuff between today and when he retires. He will be in the Hall of Fame someday. Yes. Here's one for you. I think this guy will be in the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame someday. You ready for this? Ben McCollum.
We have a question on Ben McCollum coming here. It's wild to say this because he's only coached 1 year in Division I, but it's not outrageous. He was dominant at the D2 level. So if he can be a top 5 coach in the Big Ten for the next 15 years, then yes, he could get there. Also, McCollum, because of how he's wired and how good he is, it's not unthinkable to me. Kind of like Todd Golden, to be frank, where if they continue to have success over the next 4 or 5 years, and they want to take a leap to the NBA, that wouldn't surprise me either. But Ben McCollum is not on my list. Let me give you my real quick pacing to be.
I've got other guys who I think are could be on the way. That's the way I phrase it. I could see.
Well, here are guys who I've got guys that have made a Final Four. So Final Four guys that I would say are no's right now. But if you get to another Final Four, then the conversation changes. Okay. Mick Cronin, Chris Beard, Dana Altman, Thad Matta, Shaka Smart, still kind of young Shaka, Porter Moser, Brian Dutcher. They've all made a Final Four. They're all well established, but none of those names do I feel overwhelmingly confident will get to the Hall of Fame. If you made me say yes or no, well, at least one of them, then I'll say yes. But if all of them retired within the next, say, 2 years without another Final Four, I don't think any of them would get into the Hall.
Guys I've got on my list of could be on the way. They're clearly not there yet, but they've got theoretically a lot of years to coach, and I could see their careers unfolding in a way that gets them to the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame, in part because of their talents, their abilities, and their already accomplishments, and also because of the jobs they have now. So on that list, Nate Oates.
Yep.
Tommy Lloyd.
Yep.
Dusty May.
Dusty May and Oates have made a Final Four. There's one more coach that's made a Final Four that's on the too soon to tell list for me.
Todd Golden.
I already mentioned him because he's got a national title.
Yeah.
The other coach that has a Final Four is Shire.
Brian Dutch is who?
Shire. He's got a Final Four. It's just too
soon. Yeah, of course. I mean, John. Yes, I would bet right now that John Shire ends up in the Hall of Fame.
GP, he's 3-4 years in. Like he could.
I would bet that though.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. But obviously, we're way too soon to tell on that.
Yeah, but I would if you told me I could take a future bet, yes or no, I would say yes.
Okay. Fair.
Yes.
Yep.
Mick Cronin.
Cronin for sure. I mean, he's got a Final Four. He's not there yet, but if he gets another one, we'll see. He got his Final Four when they didn't have a great team. They were an 11th seed that year. They were in the first four. But yeah.
Brian Dutcher.
Yep.
Here's a guy who hasn't made a Final Four and has barely won anything in the NCAA tournament, but I could see him being in the Hall of Fame someday. Mark Pope.
Way too early to tell.
Yeah, I agree, but I think I could see it. He's got the Kentucky job, and I think he's good.
Yep.
That's a wonderful combination if your goal is to make the Hall of Fame. You're good, and you've got the Kentucky job. Sean Miller.
Yeah, here's who I have most accomplished coaches without a Final Four. Okay? So none of these coaches are going to the Hall of Fame unless they get to a Final Four at minimum. At least one at minimum, in my opinion. Sean Miller, Randy Bennett, Greg McDermott, Buzz Williams, Jamie Dixon, Steve Alford. Those are your most accomplished, winningest coaches. They're not Hall of Fame material yet. They're really, really good coaches, but we're talking about, again, not talking about the College Basketball Hall of Fame. Like Randy Bennett will go to the College Basketball Hall of Fame. We're talking about the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame, the big Hall of Fame, the Hall of Fame that matters. It's hard to get in. You might even need to argue that those guys I just listed have to win a national title to get there. They're very, very good coaches, but I'm sorry, we're not, there's not 22 coaches right now in college basketball that are going to be Hall of Famers. This is a hard list to get into, and the names we just rattle off kind of speak to that.
Yeah, are we ready for question number 2?
Let's do it. Yep, good question.
Let's remind both of ourselves.
We got to get out of here. I know. We'll run. Scott in Indiana asked, just a couple of years ago, tampering seemed to really raise blood pressures, and coaches would mention how other programs were trying to get their players in the portal. Has the outlook on tampering and recruiting from other programs changed? Have coaches just accepted that's how it is? They know it's happening. Rather than getting all pissed about it, they accept it and do it themselves. It seems not nearly as taboo this year. Yes, for sure. My opinion is yes, for sure. It is more tolerated / accepted. Some coaches have been forced to adapt. It doesn't mean it doesn't still chap some guys' asses. I had a story that went up earlier this week on we're in a very weird cycle in place in college basketball, high school recruiting right now. We have a very delayed run of action on commitments that's tied to high school prospects and their agents not getting nearly as much money offerings or seeking more than is actually on the table for them. And a lot of coaches are a bit lost. It's been actually kind of surprising to see the feedback on this. But in talking and having those conversations and reporting out that story, the tampering stuff does come up occasionally in conversations as well. And a lot of coaches understand that the nature of the beast is different than what it once was. It doesn't mean it doesn't still bother coaches. It definitely still does. And it definitely still happens. Izzo spoke on the record about this multiple times at the end of last season. I think he might have even done it again over the summer. But it is not nearly as taboo or as hot of a topic as it was even 3 or 4 years ago. Doesn't mean that coaches don't get still pissed about it. They do. But where we are is just a different climate and environment. And there are some coaches that have just kind of accepted the fact that if they've got a good player as a mid-major coach or even as a high-major coach, that player could have his agent or one of his grassroots coaches kind of put the word out late January, early February. Hey, if you're looking for someone at your program, my guy might have eyes, might be looking around, might be willing to move. And fair or not, fun or not, that's just the nature of the beast. What's your take?
Yeah. I mean, like, it's not even to the extent that some coaches still get bothered by it. They also seem to recognize there's nothing they can do about it. Like nobody's changing the world at this point, and it does seem more accepted than ever. Multi-year contracts for student athletes can make this less of an issue. Although I sat with a coach at Peach Jam who told me a story about them having a player under contract, like literally signed him to a contract.
Mm-hmm.
and another school came in and took him anyway.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think, and this coach was like, I even picked up the phone and called the other staff. Like, I think if I remember the story correctly, they're in the same league. And he was like, hey, you guys know, like, this kid's not just committed to us. We have a signed contract, like a document. And they were like, all right. Well, we'll holler back at you. And it was then the kid just went to the other school. Like, it just was, it is what it is. I think that's what it, in the classic phrase, it is what it is. It just sort of.
I'm waiting on that follow up though. There are a couple of coaches I spoke to back in April, May. They had players break their contracts, and at the time they were adamant that they were going to hold those players accountable. To
this coach told me, and I have told my administration, go do what you got to do. Like, legally, like we signed a contract, and if we want to go after the young man who signed this contract and is now in violation of the contract, like, let's go. They're like, this is the business world now, so let's go do business. Like, you're going to hear a lot of stories like that.
Anyway, boil it down. It still matters, still bothers coaches, but it is not nearly as volcanic of a topic as it was in, say, 2022. Your next GP.
All right. We got an email from Bob. He's in New York. He wrote, I wanted to compliment Norlander. Look at you with these emails. I wanted to compliment Norlander.
What do you want from me? I'm copy pasting the email.
Who looks so thin and handsome and tan every time I turn on the eye on college basketball. Surprised you didn't add that in there.
Well, I don't add in what's not written. So
I wanted to compliment Norlander. Let me compile these emails someday.
It's called a setup. Just read the email.
I'm gonna write emails to myself.
Okay.
That say I wanted to compliment GP. That's the way every email is going to start. I wanted to compliment Norlander on his excellent article on NCAA tournament expansion. Especially his storytelling through the use of statistics to debunk some pro-expansion claims. Instead of expansion, should the NCAA tournament not give out 32 automatic bids to conferences? That's his question. That's his first question. Let's just stop here for a second.
Okay, sure.
Instead of expanding the tournament, would we be better served keeping it at 68 and just not giving out automatic bids to the 32 conference tournament champions? What do you think?
Okay, so we'll keep this kind of quick and tight. This general idea I know was very informally and very quickly discussed and tossed out there a year or two ago. The idea being the threshold would essentially, however you were going to clear the bar as an automatic bid team through your net ranking and other metrics or whatever, the idea would be, if we even went there, which, to be clear, they are not doing this, but the idea was, okay, you would still have 28 or 29 of the 32 auto bid teams clearing that. And in the years where you might just have teams that are sub 500, barely 500, haven't beaten a single team that's ranked in the top 200 of a given metric, those teams then would not qualify for the tournament. In that specific instance, again, I am staunchly anti-expansion. I would do that trade-off to keep the field at 68. It's a three-part question that Bob sent in here, but his first one was the most intriguing one. A lot of people, it's a non-starter. I completely get it. You want every single conference represented, no matter what, no matter how great, how bad the teams are. I get all that. But if you told me that there was an either or, in order to keep the tournament at 68, you had to have this new method where, 27 or 28 auto bids would get in. But, in some seasons like that, you'd exchange 2 or 3 low majors for 2 or 3 high majors. I would make that deal to keep it at 68.
I would not. I would be happy to shrink Division I. We do not need 32 conferences playing Division I men's basketball. It's ridiculous and silly. The idea that a school ranked 324th is technically, by definition, competing for the same trophy as Kentucky and Duke is outrageous. So I'd be happy to shrink Division I, but as long as we have 32 conferences in Division I, like, part of what makes the tournament special, the season March special, is that there's a path for a team from every one of them to play in the big bracket. And
I agree.
And it provides us with championship week, and it gives us the St. Peter's story. And I wouldn't want to lose that unless we lose it to shrink Division I. But if even then we wouldn't lose that, we would just have less of it. But as long as we got 32 conferences and a 68 team field, then I want auto bids for all 32. And if you told me we have to expand or cut auto bids, I would say expand before cut auto bids, but I don't want to do either one of them.
Okay. Yep. Fair enough. Question 2, read it off.
True or false? The 3 conferences that want expansion the most have to be the ACC, Big East, and the new Pac-12. I'll go with false. What do you think?
It is false. And Bob, this was one of those long, he had a tremendously awesome long email, but we just can't squeeze everything that he was putting in context for the show. So I did have to simplify this. This is false. One, because there are prominent people in every single one of these leagues who have told me they don't want the tournament to expand. And in terms of like on record stuff, I've heard this from the likes of Dan Hurley, John Shire, new Pac-12 is Gonzaga. Mark Few has no desire to see the NCAA tournament expand beyond 68 teams. I don't know where the new Pac-12 and its commissioner Teresa Gould stands on expansion, but I know Jim Phillips, at least casually we've spoken about this topic before, and he's political about it, understandably so. He's got to worry more about his ACC teams doing better to get into a 68 team field. But no, I think this is false. I think the conferences that want expansion the most, if I had to rank the top 3, I don't know if any of those 3 would rank inside the top 3.
His third question is more or less a question about, is the best argument for tournament expansion that we could theoretically get more mid-majors? And I guess my response to that would be it's an argument for expansion, but I don't think the people actually pushing for expansion care at all about the mid-majors. And not to be harsh, but me personally, I don't need a bigger tournament just to include more mid-majors that are not going to win the national championship anyway. It might be an argument other people make, but it's not one I would co-sign.
Yeah, this is an argument that some other people make. This kind of circles back to what I mentioned before. I don't want to expand the tournament, period, under any circumstances. But Bob crunched the math on data from since the past 15 years basically, and he said since they've tracked who's been in, who's been out, around 40% of the teams, if you project it out, would benefit mid-major type teams. I just expanding to 72 or 76 to justify bringing in 2 or 3 more mid-majors doesn't make it worth the bloat to me. The trade-off is not worth it. But regardless, Bob, appreciate everything you sent in. He had some really, really kind words about the show, kind words about you. I just didn't put it in the email, Doc. That's all.
Well, that's sweet. That was nice.
Justin from Kansas City has a trivia time. It was for us, but he gave the answer, so it's just for GP. I'm going to read it here. In light of Ben McCollum, by the way, you did not look up the answers to this, right? You're going into this semi-fresh. I trust you. You didn't research this.
I don't know that I'm trustworthy, but come on.
Oh, my gosh.
Ben McCollum, future Naismith Memorial Hall of Famer. You heard it here first.
Correct. So this is also a trivia time for our viewers and listeners. Play along at home. In light of Ben McCollum's immediate success at Drake, after dominating in D2, can you name the 3 winningest Division I men's basketball head coaches whose first head coaching job was not Division I? So it was either in D2, D3, NAIA, or junior college. And then, do you think Ben will join this list of those coaches? I'll give you the answer in just a second. He's currently at 426 career wins, is Ben McCollum. The hints on this, these are 3 different categories for these coaches. One of the answers is a Hall of Famer. Another has won a national title, and it's not in the Hall of Fame. And the third is still active.
Okay. I will start with Bob Huggins.
Bob Huggins is the Hall of Famer. 935 career wins. He started at NAIA Walsh University.
I will continue my list with Jim Calhoun.
Jim Calhoun is not one of the answers. If he isn't indeed an answer, hold on, let me look up Jim Calhoun real quick. Did he start outside D1 when he was a head coach? Looking. Nope. Northeastern, D1, first job.
Okay. Can I correct you? Yes, his first job was Northeastern. He got it in 1972. It was not a Division I job. It did not become Division I until 1979. Jim Calhoun technically started his career outside of Division I.
All right, Justin, you're about to get it. Here we go. This isn't for GP. This is for Justin.
I was wrong.
All right, Justin, you got to do better. I'll count that, but there's still 2 other names.
Kelvin Sampson.
Kelvin Sampson started at NAIA Montana Tech. He is your active coach with 798 or 99, I guess, depending on the math, career wins. He'll cross 800 in the first week of the season. The other name that you haven't guessed yet has a national
Cliff
title.
Ellis.
No.
Why is it not Cliff Ellis?
He did because he didn't win a national title. The other coach won a national championship.
He won 900 games.
He didn't win a national title.
Well, you said the winningest coaches who didn't start their career in Division I. How is Cliff Ellis not on the list?
This is Justin from Kansas City. What do you want from me?
Cliff Ellis started at Cumberland in AIA, transitioned to Division I, and ended up winning more than 900 games.
Oh, my gosh. GP just pulling these off the top of his head. I know that for sure. He didn't research that whatsoever. The answer is Rolly Massimino. 816 career wins, started at D3 school, Stony Brook.
816. What's more, 909 or 816?
I'm just reading you know what? Justin gets the show. Okay. He sent in a super flawed trivia time. I appreciate that. There's at least 5 of them. Okay. As for McCollum, he's 44. Okay. If he turns out to be really good, and again, wants to be someone who chooses to coach in college for a long time, he'll be in the game. You know, let's just reasonably put him like he steps away at 64, right? Who knows what college basketball will look like 20 years from now. In that scenario, he eclipses 800 wins for sure. Because consider, we're going to go to longer schedules in the years to come. So he'll have more opportunities to win more games. He could get to 900, frankly, in that scenario. So yes, to circle back to what GP talked about near the start of the show, if McCollum is who we think he's going to be, then he will have a very good chance at being one of the 4 or 5 winningest coaches in history to not start his career in D1.
All right. Next question comes from Jeff. He's in Idaho Falls. He writes, in November, the Players Era Festival will play a 20-team MTE in Las Vegas. And reports claim that the Players Era Festival will expand to as many as 32 teams as soon as November 2026. What sort of impact could this have on the other early season tournaments like Maui, Battle for Atlantis, ESPN Events Classic in Orlando, and others? Could we even see Maui eventually filled with mid-major teams? If or when the Players Era Festival does expand to 32, what sort of impact do you think that will have on college basketball? Is it possible that 32-team Players Era Festival could actually have an overall positive effect for college basketball and pull attention away from college football and even the NFL while November Madness is happening? I'll answer that last part first.
Okay.
Nothing's really pulling attention away from the NFL or college football. Like that's just, me and Norlander and, Jeff in Idaho Falls will be locked into college basketball.
And the millions of our listeners, Parrish, let's be fair.
But like, college NFL and college football, there's nothing college basketball can do about that. All right. So there's that. You've written a lot about this. Yeah. I think my understanding is obviously it's terrible for the Battle for Atlantis in Maui because, and I do believe you will see in future years, the fields look less impressive than they have historically been. And the reason is because there's money to be made now doing these things. And Maui could be a money loser, for some schools.
It has been.
Yeah. And like the Players Era Festival is going to be a money maker for your players. And so, yes, I guess I'd answer it this way. It may or may not be good for, quote, college basketball. We can debate that separately, but undeniably it is it's bad for the other tournaments that are competing against it.
A few things here. Jeff mistakenly had as a 20-team MTE. It will be 18 teams this season. Yes, the plan is for it to be 32. We'll see. Maybe there's more to report on that in the coming weeks. We'll see. I know there's still some invitations being sent out for the 32 team. What they're planning to be a 32 team Players Era Festival for 2026. I'm not a fan of this event going to 32 teams because I don't like the fact that it undeniably will have significant impacts on other multi-team events, or as we call them, MTEs. It's just too big to me. 18. It's going to be 18 this year. That'll be interesting to see how that all works out. It's just too many teams. Now that being said, if this actually does come to pass with 32 teams and they can somehow get the money to make it sustainable, because there's still a lot of skepticism over, like, is this thing going to exist in 3 years? Like, how can they still be doing this? Where is all the money coming from? The checks all cleared last year when it was an 8-team event. Remember, there's still 4 women's teams that are doing this as well, high-end teams. You got your Duke, South Carolina, and on down the way. They've got some big-name programs involved there. But if they do it and you have a 32 team event with, I mean, be conservative about it, Parrish, 20 of the most notable schools in the country in this event where you're going to have a big bracket in pool play. It's not going to draw attention away from the NFL or college football, but it will enhance the prominence of college basketball in November. I don't think that's deniable because there's never been anything like this. And this idea that you'd have a 32 team bracketed event around Thanksgiving, which is such a huge sports week. I do think I think that event can uplift the sport. I just don't like how it's going to suck out and draw away from the others. Right now, the Battle for Atlantis for 2026 doesn't have a single team committed. Okay. It's the group. ESPN used to run that. ESPN doesn't even run anymore. It's actually the same group that runs Maui is now running Battle for Atlantis. And I checked when we got this email, I checked in yesterday on this. There's not a single team, not one that is committed to Atlantis for 2026. There's concerns that event, if it could die, and if it doesn't die, what kind of teams is it going to get? Maui does have, Maui's already announced, to compare the two, Maui has already announced its 2026 field. The Battle for Atlantis, which for about a 6-7 year run was punching evenly with Maui to be the best MTE in the sport. It's now wondering, are we going to be able to field our event with the bottom third Power 5 programs that aren't going to Players Era, that aren't going to Maui? Maui is done all right for itself. This year's field is just okay. Arizona State, Boise State, Chaminade, NC State, which got a boost with Will Wade. When NC State was going, Will Wade was not the coach. Seton Hall, Texas gets a boost with Sean Miller. USC gets a boost with Eric Musselman and Washington State. Next year's field's better. Arizona, BYU, Clemson, Colorado State, Ole Miss, Providence, VCU, and Washington. So a little bit better. But these tournaments are not what they once were. You're going to see the MTE space greatly change. I'll tell you this, we look up in 2030, how the college basketball calendar is populated with MTE events, which will still exist, is going to look very different from what it looked like in 2021, 2022. The ESPN event that happens in Orlando, that used to be an 8-team, 3-game event. That got chopped in half. It's now just a two-game event now. And a lot of this is a function of what the Players Era has done. It'll be a huge deal. I just don't like the idea of one event taking 32 teams and diluting everything else on the calendar. But if they do pull it off, it'll undeniably be a massive, massive deal. If you can get that many schools involved, we'll see what the other schools that get invited, if they say yes. I know right now, currently there are invites going out and schools are determining if they're going to be involved in this in 26.
All right. Next question. I think it's yours, right?
It is. Daniel, a Utah State fan, as he identified in his email. He actually had a Utah State question. Daniel, I'm sorry, we got to stick this to the big boys here. He has questions on 2 other Utah programs. He actually also had a Weber State question. God bless your heart, Daniel. But we're going to stick with the 2 that on the 2 power conference programs here. He wants to know: is Alex Jensen the real deal, or will this NBA experienced coach go down as a failed attempt to win the arms race with BYU? As an Aggie fan, I want to say that job isn't fixable, meaning Utah. Because I thought Craig Smith was good. He just didn't have the buy-in to build a consistently competitive team. He's got a BYU question as well, but I'll save that for a second. Jensen, I'll go first, and GP. I will be interested to see how this goes. If you told me it didn't work and he's back on an NBA sideline in 2 or 3 years, I'd believe you. Has a long history of working in the NBA, really good reputation there. But he was Utah AD Mark Harlan's top target. That's why Craig Smith got fired when he did and received plenty of blowback for doing so, because he didn't want to allow Craig Smith any kind of out to have a late season run and have a case to hold on to his job. So he asked him, had Jensen lined up, brings him in. They do that. They raise money. The Utah fan base knows who he is. He played on the 98 team that made the Final Four. I mean, really well known there. And maybe this does hit. I think there's a chance it does. Utah, go do your history. Look, Utah is clearly one of the 25 best programs in the history of men's college basketball. And you may be able to make the case that it's top 20 overall. But in the past 10 years, you don't think of it like that right now, because for the past 10 years, the program has largely been relegated to the background of the sport. It's been mostly irrelevant. So the Jensen stuff is interesting to me. What are your thoughts on that before we address the BYU question?
No idea. We'll see. Did they give him the resources to be competitive, assuming he has the capabilities to, run a high major program? We'll see. But I think anybody with a strong opinion on that, one way or another, in this moment, they're just guessing.
For BYU, I want to hear first of all how the idea for smash that like button like your brand debuts was born, and then also with the influx of talent like AJ DeBanza, is this the year the BYU finally shakes off the most NCAA tournament appearances without a Final Four title? How was the smash that like button like Brandon Davies was born? Again, we get these questions all the time. What's this stuff comes from? GP, I think you know the answer.
I'm not sure I know the answer exactly, but
okay.
I can connect some dots.
I do know
the Brandon Davies thing just came up one time. We were talking about BYU, and I still to this day think it's wild that you could be kicked off a possible Final Four team for having sex. I don't care. I think it's crazy. All right. Not crazy. That's the wrong word. I think it's interesting. All right. So,
say what you mean. It's more than interesting. Wild. BYU wouldn't be on this list if they didn't do that. But yeah.
I mean, they were maybe going to a Final Four.
Yeah.
And they kicked one of their best players off the team.
Yeah. And let me just jump in. And then we became the first sports podcast period to go to video, as people know. We were the first ones to do it. And as those shows were getting going, I said, the common lingo is to smash that like button. You just smash it. And then you said, smash it like Brandon Davies. So
because I know he did. Because I know he would. I know he would. I've heard about his work. I haven't seen it, but I've heard about his work. I know that he would. And then, of course, that's where more of us came from, because I started getting a little pushback because I was like, I'm for premarital sex. All right. I would never punch somebody for premarital sex. I'm for it.
Yes.
All right. And then I got pushback. They were like, well, you can't be promoting premarital sex. And I'm like, what? Hold on a second. You guys aren't going to act like I'm in the minority here. Most of us are having premarital sex. All right. Most of us had premarital sex and enjoyed it. And so there's more of us than there are of you. That's what I meant. So stop trying to shame me. You're on the minority side of this, not me. All right. I got strength in numbers in my premarital sex army. There's more of us than there are of them. And then, they were like, you got to, we're going to YouTube and you got to tell people to smash. That was the phrase, smash the like button. And I was like, is there not a better way to say this? I mean, maybe I'm too old,
nope,
but
there's not.
Perhaps I'm too old, but it sounds like there's got to be a better way to say this than smash the like button. But that was the quote, what I was told to use. So I was like, all right, let's smash the like button. And then the person that popped in my head who smashed, Brandon Davies. And that's how we got here, I think.
Yeah, smash the like button like Wilt Chamberlain. It just doesn't hit the same way, I guess. Okay. Final Four. Does it happen this year for BYU? You've got
I don't know.
Top 5 in your rankings. History would indicate with GP's preseason prediction patterns that when it comes time for us to send in our forecasts, he will have BYU in his Final Four.
Well, we'll see. But I do have him third, 25-1 right now. So a Final Four is very much in the cards. Hard to get there, but is it possible? Sure. And is it the best chance they've had since they kicked Brandon Davies off the team for doing it? This might be the best opportunity BYU has had to go to a Final Four since they kicked Brandon Davies off the team for doing it. I think that's a quote.
That is true. BYU's gone to 32 NCAA tournaments and never made the Final Four. I got a double trivia time for you right now. All right?
Mm-hmm.
How many times has BYU made the Elite Eight? We talk about how they never made the Final Four, but how many times do you think they've gotten to the doorstep of the Final Four?
1.
It's been 3. The most recent was 1981, March of 81, before I was even born, which surprised me. If you had the over-under, 1983 or June of 83, I would have taken more recently, but 3 times they've made the Elite Eight, never in the expanded tournament era. BYU is famously the number 1 team with the most appearances. The number 2 school without a Final Four has been to the NCAA's 30 times. Who is it?
Tennessee.
It is Xavier. I think Tennessee might be 29 or 28. Xavier is number 2 with 30. One more bonus for you, not a trivia time. The program with the most NCAA tournaments not to make the Elite Eight or even the Sweet 16 is Murray State. They've gone 18 times to the tournament. They've never made the second weekend. Good question. I liked it. You're next up, Nick from Cleveland.
Nick from Cleveland writes, I started listening to you guys about a year ago. I was amazed how 2 non-former coaches and players sound like Ryan Clark.
That's right.
Sound like Ryan. This is from Ryan Clark. This is from Ryan Clark in Bristol. That's right. He says he's amazed that 2 non-former coaches and players are so plugged in. It amazes me that you guys have heard coaches, have head coaches texting you guys about topics and thoughts. Can you speak on how hard it was to be trusted in the industry and how certain relationships work with current and former coaches? Yeah. I first off, I think what helps us in that regard specifically is that we are not just two podcasters. We both came to this industry as reporters, as writers, as we both worked at newspapers. We both have reporting backgrounds, and when you have reporting backgrounds, it means that you've created relationships and sources, and you stay in touch with these people, and you develop relationships, and then you nurture those relationships, and it can help you be. I think that's the biggest to the extent we have an advantage over other people who do this, and we don't have advantages over every, but like we know the people we're talking about more often than not, and as opposed to like if I were doing a Hollywood like movie podcast, I would just be sitting here talking about people I've never met, never been around, don't know much about other than what I see on TV and read. But for these purposes, we are often talking about people we know, coaches we've been around. And I think the biggest helpful tool connected to all that is that we have this is not our only job to talk into these microphones. And we had vastly different jobs before we got to this place. Does that make sense?
It does. I won't belabor. I echo a lot of what you said. It's a lot of time, a lot of investment for the right way. Don't always, hit up these people just looking for something, making it a one-way avenue. Not always calling when you need something, and getting to know them on a personal level. A lot goes into it. Takes a lot of time for sure. But it's worth it. And I appreciate the email. And that was also complimentary of Gary Parrish. I want it to be known for the record here. That was a email that was complimenting GP. Sean from Norwalk, Connecticut. I used to live there, by the way. Asks, it's a fun question. Before I do that, how long did it take you to research this question? How much time did you put in this one?
I actually spent some time on this.
About 25 minutes for me on this one.
Yeah, it was up there. I was watching Mets Padres and scrolling Wikipedia.
There we go. This is a kind of creativity we like, although it was a little bit of a homework assignment. He asks, as both proud reps of your respective home states, I'd love to know your home state's Mount Rushmore of famous people with these parameters. Rules are they must have been born in your state, not just played in, lived in, and or attended a college in your state. So he wants to know the actor or actress, the athlete, the musician, and then a wild card pick. So we'll go one at a time. Actor, actress, I live in Connecticut. This one is easy. It is Katharine Hepburn. She was born here, lived here, died here, buried here. One of the 10 most famous actresses in the history of this country. Close, actor, actresses that, have Connecticut roots as well that were in the conversation. Glenn Close, Paul Giamatti was actually the son of a former Major League Baseball commissioner. But Katharine Hepburn is definitely the most prominent person in that field from Connecticut. What about from Mississippi?
I think I would have to go with Oprah Winfrey.
Ooh, I did.
Did you know Oprah?
I know she was. I don't think I knew that she was. Because she is most. That's the other thing. Is some people on this list that we're about to do, they had some strong ties to Connecticut, but they weren't born there. When people think Oprah, they think Chicago.
Right. But she was born in Mississippi, and though mostly famous from the Oprah Winfrey Show and just being Oprah Winfrey, she is an actress and was actually, I believe, nominated for an Oscar.
Color Purple, right?
Yeah, The Color Purple, right. So Oprah Winfrey, big star.
Okay, athlete, you go first.
I've got options here, and
I think more than me for sure.
You can argue that, and I'm not making this argument, but you could try to if you wanted to, that the greatest wide receiver and running back in history.
It's not. This is not up for debate. It's Jerry Rice and Walter Payton. Keep going.
Yeah. They're both born in Mississippi, so I'm picking between Walter Payton and Jerry Rice, and I think I went with Walter Payton.
Look at you. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. Let's go Bears here. I think Walter Payton's the most well-rounded football player in the history of the sport. Jerry Rice, if you want to say, is the best receiver, best athlete. I'd buy that too. I've always loved the fact that Jerry Rice and Walter Payton came from HBCUs, and then went on to just utter domination. I've always loved that. Mississippi Valley State for Jerry Rice, and then Jackson State for Walter Payton. I actually just got myself a Walter Payton hoodie just earlier this week there. That's awesome stuff. So you go Payton or Rice. I like it. Okay, Connecticut's tough. Okay, Marcus Camby, Dwight Freeney, Chris Dunn. These were high-level prospects that were born in Connecticut, came out of Connecticut. But I don't think, they don't have strong ties to Connecticut. Dorothy Hamill won a gold medal in figure skating. Didn't pick her. Mike Jaminski. My wife actually went to the same high school as Mike Jaminski, but he was in high school 50 years ago. He was one of the first great Duke players, played a long career in the NBA. Bobby Valentine had a 10-year MLB career, but more known for post playing. He has a very strong connection to Stamford, Connecticut, and Connecticut in general. He lives here. But I'm actually going to go with Chris Drury. He scored more than 600 points in the NHL, and he was the star on the Little League World Series team from Trumbull, Connecticut.
Yeah, I remember that.
That won the whole thing in 1989. So he went from Little League World Series baseball star to really, really good hockey player. He still lives in the state, so he's like a homegrown talent, still connected to the state, had big moments there. I think he's probably it overall. Connecticut is not overflowing with a lot, like in a given year, the state might have, I don't know, GP, like 1 or 2 high-level D1 basketball recruits. It doesn't provide a ton on the athlete end, but I think I would go Drury overall. Okay, third category was musician. This one is not hard. It is John Mayer, who grew up in Fairfield, Connecticut, about, 20 minutes or so from where I'm at. When I was in college, someone I worked with on the student newspaper, his name was Clay. So this is early 2000s. This is just when like Mayer's starting to break out. He's not nearly as famous then as he is now, but I'll never forget this story. We were just working in the newspaper offices one day doing some pagination or whatever, and somehow Mayer comes up. I don't know how. Maybe he was playing a local concert. I don't know, but somehow he comes up. And at this point, it's like he's fledgling. Like he's not a super duper well known, but like there's this guy who's like a really good guitar player. And yeah, whatever. And he goes, man, I hate that guy. I can't stand that guy. He's the worst. And I'm like, why? He's like, I went to high school with him. I was like, oh damn, okay, that's kind of cool. He's like, it ain't cool, because Clay, he played around town. He played in bands. He's like, this dude, one day, it's after school. I'm just like sitting with my friends, and I'm like, I'm not even like sitting in a crisscross applesauce playing my guitar. I'm just like, I just have it on me. And he comes up, he's like, yo, dude, can I borrow that? Now, I want to be clear as I'm about to say this, and it's going to be listened to a lot of people. Maybe this story wasn't true, but he certainly told it like it was true. He goes, and then John Mayer comes over, asks if he can borrow my guitar. I say, sure. And it's like 30 minutes later, he's like on the other side of the high school campus. He's got like 15 women around him, and they're all just totally enamored with these two. He's like, I've hated him ever since.
It sounds like John Mayer.
It totally does. It was. We were cracking up the way that he was telling the story. Mayer is by far the most famous musician to come from Connecticut.
Well, we got you beat down here in Mississippi.
Unquestionably. I know that.
We have the king of rock and roll.
Cultural disadvantage. I'm not of the belief otherwise. Don't worry.
We have the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley. We have the king of the blues, B.B. King. We also have Robert Johnson.
Yeah.
We've got Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah.
We've got Jimmy Buffett.
I mean, you've already said the winner, though.
Of course. I mean, just the other ones, if you want rap, Rick Ross, blues, Muddy Waters. Ike Turner is from Mississippi. Bo Diddley from Mississippi. But the answer, I think, has got to be Elvis Aaron Presley.
All right. Who's your wild card? Can be any other athlete, politician, anyone. Who was your wild card pick?
I mean, I've got some good options. Already mentioned Jerry Rice. Could be B.B. King. Could be Archie Manning. How about this one? Could be Jim Henson.
It's not a bad call.
William Faulkner.
I think he's at the top of the list. Yeah, they got so many good writers.
James Earl Jones. I think my wild card, I'll go William Faulkner just to put a writer in there. So my Mount Rushmore of Mississippi, based on these requirements, would be Oprah Winfrey, Walter Payton, Elvis Presley, and William Faulkner.
Yeah, you win. I've got Katharine Hepburn, Chris Drury, John Mayer, and then if the person did not have to be born in the state, it would be Mark Twain, because he had a very strong connection to Connecticut, lived here, is buried here for the second half of his life, but he wasn't born here. He was born in Missouri. I'm gonna go with someone who was a massive deal for about 100 years. P.T. Barnum, as in Barnum and Bailey, the circus. Born, lived, raised, died in Connecticut. Huge genuinely a huge cultural figure in this country from the 1850s into the mid 20th century overall. There's some others, and we're kind of getting tighter on time. I won't belabor the point, but this was a really good question. You made us think a lot. GP, you're next up with Sam.
Sam from Fort Wayne. He has questions and some unsolicited advice. Okay, Sam. GP, why do you hike your leg a little bit like you're posing for a pic when you're on CBS? Okay, let's just stop there for a second. This question feels like it comes from Wally Zerbiak.
Maybe it does. I don't know what he's talking. I couldn't even picture what he was trying to describe here. I don't know what this is.
I know exactly what he's talking about. When we're doing stand-ups, you could probably find pictures of me like in studio. I am constantly standing next to people who are much taller than I am. And I somehow convinced myself that if I just like put my right foot on my tippy toes a little bit, it'll compensate for that. And I didn't even, it's not a decision I actually made consciously. It's just something I started doing. And Wally is among the first people who pointed it out. He's like, "Oh, come on, GP, get on your toes." And I'm just standing there all 5'7.5", short as shit. But that is the explanation for it. Here's the explanation. Makes no sense. I get it. It doesn't work. It's not an effective. But if you ever see me standing strangely on television, it is because somewhere in my stupid head, I've convinced myself that it makes me look taller.
Okay. Why don't you read out the unsolicited advice from me?
Oh, yeah. Let's see here. Mr. Norlander, purchase some texturing powder for your hair. It will be much better than the product you're using now. What kind of product do you use?
I use like an Old Spice wax, I guess. I actually really like it. I've got fine hair. I'm wearing a hat today, so no hair stuff here. I love that. And what's wild about it, like I got my hair cut about a week ago, and when I got a cut at the end of it, I got my hair cut before I read this email. And at the end of the haircut, the person who's cutting my hair was like, "Hey, I got this new texturing powder. You want to give it a go?" I was like, "Sure, let's do it." And they put it in. I was like, "This actually isn't bad." So the emailer might indeed be correct, but I'm just cracking up over the idea that someone's just like, I can't stand the way Parrish stands on television. And Norlander, you got to fix your hair. And so these are the emails that maybe we're not looking for, but they give me a chuckle. Also, he was desperate for us not to shout out his business, which I find to be hilarious. We won't, but I don't know why you would say that, Sam, because doesn't feel like you got to run from it. Appreciate the email. Next one. And we got
we might need to wrap this up after this one.
Okay, well, we have to do this one. Hey, Matt and GP, my name is Jackson, and I'm 16 from South Dakota, and I have the question of the century. Who are you taking? Tucker and Darian DeVries versus Doug and Greg McDermott in a wrestling match. I wondered if we had done this one on the show before. I don't think so. I texted both coaches. Here's the height and weight. Okay, Greg McDermott, 6'8", 275. Darian DeVries is 6'3", 210, and a lefty. Tucker DeVries is 22 going on 23. Doug is 33. Doug is 6'6", 225. Tucker is 6'7", 220-ish. I told Greg this. He is a hoss. I know he's 10 years older than Darren. And in fact, hold on. Greg said, he said, I would have to kill D. Remember, these people all know each other.
Yes, of course.
McDermott and DeVries were on the same staff for a long time at Creighton. He goes, I would have to kill D-Rock to get him to quit, but I would get there eventually. And then he sent like 5 laughing emojis. I will take the McDermotts in this situation.
I'm the same. I think I would also take the McDermotts, and based on size, I looked all this up too. Greg 6'6", Doug was Greg is 6'8", Doug is 6'6". The age advantage DeVries, but just size, I think, is advantage McDermott. And it is funny, like as I was thinking through this, the first thought that popped in my head was Greg McDermott is massive. He's the type of man. This happens to me sometimes when you go to greet somebody, you know, and it's like the informal, like one of these, and then you come in for like a little hug. And I have a memory of like hugging Greg McDermott in that way, but my ear just goes into his belly button. I'm hugging him, but my ear is in his belly button.
It's a really good question. I can be really quick on the last one for you to read, and we'll save the other one for another mailbag, unless you think we definitely have to get out of here now.
Whatever you want it to. You
read it. Let's do it real quick.
The last question.
Your last question, Jacob.
Okay, this is from Jacob in Richmond, Virginia. After thinking back to the Final Four this past year with all one seeds, which made for some great games, it really got me thinking, what is needed to make up a legendary Final Four weekend? What does the perfect Final Four look like for you? And he goes through a bunch of options, but you can imagine all the options. What's the perfect Final Four for you? Okay, I'll be quick on this. The city, New Orleans. Best one. Maybe Vegas eventually, but I'll take New Orleans. Then here are my teams. Team 1, give me a Cinderella story. I'll take it every time. A mid-major team that's reached that stage. Last had it in 2023 with FAU.
Team 2, give me a team with either 0, 1, or 2 losses max. I want a powerhouse with a gaudy record. Want to see them on the biggest stage, how they handle the final realm. Ideally, if you have that in a mid-major team, they don't play each other until the title game. We last had a gaudy team like that in 21, Gonzaga and Baylor. Team 3, give me a team that has the National Player of the Year and or the projected number 1 pick in the draft. I want the biggest star on the biggest stage in college basketball. We had that this past year with Cooper Flag. And oh, by the way, we had 2 National Player of the Year candidates with him and Broome. And then Team 4, give me a blue blood program. If you lost count, it's one of these schools: Kentucky, Carolina, Duke, Kansas, UCLA, UConn, Louisville, and I would argue maybe Villanova's wobbling. I've booted Indiana from this context until they can get back to another Final Four. We last had this year with Duke. We obviously had the all blue blood Final Four in 2022. Some of those might overlap, but if you give me 4 scenarios, 4 teams, that is what I'm doing for my dream Final Four.
Yeah, like some combination of that stuff is all good. I think I'd go like 2 blue bloods. So give me some combination of a Duke, Kentucky, or a Kansas, North Carolina, or a Kansas, Duke. Like give me 2 of those, and then give me another really good team that's got the projected number 1 pick in the draft on it. Like, so we have that storyline. And then give me that Wichita State team with Fred VanVleet and Ron Baker that was undefeated going into the tournament, and then they're undefeated going to the Final Four. 2 blue bloods, an undefeated mid-major, and the number 1 pick in the draft. That'd be fun. And like, but our bosses would want just the biggest brands, period. Like they were begging for Duke, Kentucky title game in 2015 with Kentucky going for a possible undefeated national championship. That would have been like, that's exactly the type of thing they want. So give me 2 schools like that, and then give me a number 1 pick and an undefeated mid-major, and we got just about everything covered that we need.
I want to thank everyone for sending in some emails. We got a few more that we're going to save for another mailbag later this year. I will say I'll end it with this, and then we can wrap. The fan base, and I'll make this up for you, Indiana fans. Your Indiana and your fan base, it's the school that I would put at the top of the list amongst. I've covered every Final Four since 2011. The school that hasn't been there since at least 2011 that I most want to see get there and just kind of experience it, I would put Indiana at the top of that list. We'll see if, circle back to DeVries. We'll see if he can get that done sometime in the coming years.
Well, first he's going to have to recover from that beating from Greg McDermott.
I know, it's not going to be easy. You got to figure
Good luck trying to get to a Final Four after you just got your ass kicked by Greg McDermott. All right? But,
exactly.
but we wish everybody luck. Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Terry Teagle, Legend, Huck, Larnell. Thank you guys once again for watching, listening to the Eye on College Basketball Podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, Apple, Spotify. More of us than there are of them. That should be reflected in the comments. So do that. We'll talk to you again real soon. Till then, take care.